Okay, before I start today's Retrobat version 6.3.0, if you like what you see today, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content here on my channel, just Jamie. That means you'll get notified every time I release a new emulation setup guide, and it really helps out my channel too. So we're looking at Retrobat version 6.3.0, which was released as a stable version less than 24 hours ago. Now, before you think it, I'm not a Retrobat channel. I've covered a hell of a lot of front-end content on my channel as well as standalone emulators, but Retrobat is one of the most widely covered front-ends that I cover on my channel. So how do we install this? Let's actually go over to the Retrobat website, and we're going to go to Downloads Now. We're going to go to Downloads Now here, and we're going to go no thanks, just take me to the downloads. So we want to download the top version just here. As we can see, version 6.3.0 was released as I'm recording this video 15 hours ago. Just download this one, and that's going to start downloading. Now, whilst we're waiting for this to download, we're going to need to sign up with a website known as Screen Scraper. Once we're inside a Retrobat, we can scrape. If you're new to this type of thing, Screen Scraper literally scrapes us or downloads us artwork and preview videos for our games. So I seriously urge you to sign up with Screen Scraper. I'll leave the link in my description for this. Next thing we're going to do to enhance the experience a little bit more for you is head over to Retro Achievements. Again, just like Screen Scraper, Retro Achievements is free to sign up with, and I'll leave the link in my description. What this enables you to do is earn little points, little rewards, that type of thing for particular games that you play. And you can actually sign up with Retro Achievements and then enter your details into Retrobat, which I'm going to be showing you shortly. Whilst we're still waiting for that Retrobat to download, I'm going to recommend you go over to itch.io. You can download homebrew games just here. So for example, if I go into the search bar and type in C64, which is one of my favourite systems, we got lots of free games just here. So it's a little bit of a perk, I suppose, to get you up and running with Retrobat. Next thing I'm going to recommend you do too, to save some space, is go over to this website. This is chdman.zip. It says Recalbox. Recalbox is another front-end system, which funny enough I've covered in the past. Just download CHDman. What this does is converts your .bin and .q files into CHD format. It saves you space, and it takes away lots of those really irritating Q and bin files. So I'm going to go through that, and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be showing you how to convert PlayStation 2 Q and bin files. But I'll get into that shortly. Next thing I'm going to recommend you doing, if you fancy setting up PlayStation 2, best way to do this and to find out what you need is going over to this wiki Retrobat. And just here, it's going to tell you the BIOS files that we need. So if we take a look at the BIOS file column just here, that's every naming convention of BIOS files that we're going to need. It even tells you where we need to place them. But again, I'm going to get into that shortly. So Retrobat has now been downloaded. I got it on my desktop. So first of all, let's just set this up. So double left click on the .executable. Okay, so Windows protected your PC, just left click on more info and then left click on run anyway. First thing we're going to see then as a part of the installation process is select language. We got several different languages here. Of course I'm going to be using English. I'm going to press OK. And now we're going to go to next, and I accept the agreement, go to next. And next again. Now the next part of this is where we want Retrobat to install to. So by default, this is going to create a new folder on my C drive called Retrobat. If you want to change the location of it or even plug in a USB device, just go to browse and then just browse for a location you want it to create that Retrobat folder into. But like I say, for this I'm going to just leave it as default to go to my C drive and Retrobat. So I'm going to go to next, and we're also going to make sure that DirectX 9 and Visual C++ are both checked. We need both of these to install in order for Retrobat to run correctly. So again, we're going to press next, and we also want to create a desktop shortcut. So go to next, and finally we're going to press install. Okie dokes, completing the Retrobat setup wizard. So what we're going to do now is press finish, and that's it. We've now installed the latest version of Retrobat. We got two shortcuts here. We want to delete the exe just here, which says setup on it. Just delete that because we've now installed Retrobat. And here's the shortcut. So what we're going to do next is set up a controller. Now I'm using an Xbox Series controller and I'm using this through Bluetooth. So I'm going to just quickly show you how to set this up if you fancy using Bluetooth controllers. All I'm going to do is type in Bluetooth into my search bar, left click here. What I'm going to do next is just to make sure that my parent button is on, and I'm going to go to add device and add device Bluetooth. Xbox wireless controller, just left click on that one, and that's now been connected, so we can press done, and that's it. So controller is now set up and Retrobat is installed. So next thing I'm going to do then is just briefly show you how CHDman works. If I go into my PS2 folder, as you can see, I got Crash Bandicoot, the Wrath of Cortex in .bin.q. Now like I say, CHD conversions make more space on your hard drive, so in essence your games are going to be smaller, but they still work the same. And instead of having two files here, this is going to convert it to one. Here's CHDman, and the files I need to drag out is chdman.exe and the next one down, which is qgdi iso to chdbat. All I need to do with these is drag and drop them into my game folder, and I'm going to double left click on this bat file. And here we go. So this is now converting the .bin and .q into .chd, as we can see just here. And we also got a little percentage just here, so this one isn't going to take too much time to convert. Okay, so that's now been converted into .chd. Now, just to show you how much space we've saved on this particular game, if I just go to the end here of .chd, we're going to see 381 kilobytes, and the original was 588. So yeah, you saved some space there. So let's just drag Crash Bandicoot.chd onto the desktop, and I can now delete everything else in that folder. Okay, so what we can do next then is go into the Retrobat directory. So you can either find this if you installed it by default to your C drive. Just go to your C drive, and from here, here's the Retrobat folder. If you want a very quick way of getting into that directory, right click on the shortcut, open file location, and here you go. So two crucial folders in the Retrobat directory that are used more often than others is the ROMs folder, and in here is every system that Retrobat version 6.3.0 covers. And most of these are fairly simple to get games up and running, but there are many more which are more complex. I've covered most of these and they're all in my Retrobat setup guides playlist. So for this, we're obviously doing PlayStation 2 as a quick setup today. So what I'm going to do is look for PS2 folder, and I'm going to drag that Crash Bandicoot.chd game file inside of that one. Next up, I'm going to come out, and I've also got a few Nintendo NES games, and this is considered quite a fairly simple system to set up in Retrobat. So we're just going to look for NES. Here's NES, and here's my NES game folder. I'm going to just drag and drop my .zip games inside of that ROMs NES folder. If I then come out, so what we're going to do next then is actually open up Retrobat for the first time. So if I just clean up my desktop, and my controller's connected, so I'm going to open up Retrobat, just double left click. Okay, so we're inside of Retrobat now, and we can see Nintendo just here, and if I scroll across, here's PlayStation 2. So generally, when we put games into the folders, into the ROMs folder, they will show up, with the exception of some particular systems. Like I say, for those particular more complex systems set up, I got an entire playlist. So what we're going to do then, first of all, is just go into Nintendo NES. Here's the games which I've just dragged and dropped. Now what we're going to do is use Screen Scraper, which I recommended you to earlier on. If you press the start button on your controller, which brings up main menu. Just go down to scraper, scrape from. We got several databases here to scrape from. Screen scraper is the best in most cases. We're going to next go down to scraper settings, image source. I'm going to swap this to box 3D, and I'm going to leave these few just here as default. If I then scroll down, I'm going to download fan art. I'm going to also download map. And here's the username. So like I say, with Screen Scraper, you do need to sign up, which is absolutely free. Once you've done that, you can then start typing in your username and passwords. And once you put your details in, just go to back. And systems included, I'm going to just make sure Nintendo NES is checked, which it is. I'm then going to go to Scrape Now. And on the top right hand side, you can now see this is now scraping or downloading artwork. Once it's done, you'll see scraping finished. All we need to do then is go to game settings, update game list, and press yes. And here we go. So we got artwork, but this doesn't look too good. So what we're going to do is come back outside of that folder, press start button. And what we're going to do next is just make Retrobat look better, or to your preference. We're going to go down to updates and downloads, and then down to themes. And here we can download lots of different themes. There's plenty here, and they all range in different sizes. So for example, if I wanted to download a different theme to make things look very different, then I'm going to download this one just here, Hursty Arcade Paradise. I'm going to press install. Now, top right hand side, we'll see this is downloading. So we're just going to wait for that to download. Okay, so that theme's now been installed, as we can see. So we're going to apply that theme. Again, by pressing start button, brings up main menu. We're going to go down one to user interface settings, theme set. And here is the theme I've just downloaded. So to apply this, I'm going to press A on my controller, and I need to come out. So press B, and here we go. Brand new theme, which looks a little bit better. So we're going to go back into Nintendo NES. And as we can see, the presentation is totally different now, which looks better to some people. I think this looks better. We can actually customize this theme further. Again, just by going to your main menu by pressing start, down to user interface settings, theme configuration, game list view style. If I change this over to grid, and go back into Nintendo NES, as we can see, it looks a lot different now. And of course, every theme has its own different personal customization options. User interface settings, theme configuration. We can even go down to theme marquee and use something like still image. We can go to theme background and change something else. So arcade vid 2, try this one, just come out. And things start changing. So generally, like I say, themes do have options just under user interface settings, under theme configuration. And if you don't like what you've done and it looks a mess, just go down to reset customizations, and that will take it back to how you downloaded it. So anyways, what we're going to do then is actually boot up a game. So Nintendo NES should be good to go. Okay, so let's open up one of my favorites, Double Dragon 2. Just going to press A on this for this to open. Okay, so everything's running fine, and this is something called Retroarch Quick Menu. For those of you not sure what Retroarch is, Retroarch powers around 75 to 80% of the games through Retrobat. So some find Retroarch fairly complex to use, but once you use it many times, you start getting used to it. Things we can do then from the Retroarch Quick Menu is exit the game. If you find that your hotkeys don't work, hotkeys are a button or two you press to escape from a game. If you can't do that for some reason, just enter the quick menu, press F1 on your keyboard, and we can actually exit from here. If I press B to come out, and then just simply go down to quit, here we go, I'm now back into Retrobat. Okay, so whilst we're talking about Retroarch, I'm going to show you something else we can do with Retroarch through Retrobat. If I open up one of these games again, I'm going to go for a Castle Quest. So I'm going to press F1 on my keyboard, which again brings us into quick menu. From here, I can go down to save states. I can save state. By going back into the save state option through Retroarch quick menu, if I drop down to load state, and we can do this for pretty much every system in Retrobat which is supported by Retroarch. If I come out of here and just drop down, we got cheats just here, so we do need to download cheats through Retroarch. If I press my B button to come out, go down to online updater, if I scroll downwards, I'm going to find update cheats. If I press my A button on this one, this is going to download lots of different cheats for many different systems in Retroarch. Okay, so once that's done this thing, what we're going to do next is actually apply cheats. So just press B to come out, go back to quick menu. If I press up on my D-pad, that will bring us down to the bottom. If I then go into cheats, we're going to go down to apply after toggle, press A to turn this on. We're going to go down to load cheat file, and you're going to find lots of different system folders in here. So I'm using Nintendo NES for this, and what I'm going to do is my Nintendo Entertainment System. If I press my A button to go in, we're going to find lots of different games just here. This is pretty much the entire Nintendo NES catalog. So the game I'm playing is called Castle Quest. So I'm going to look for Castle Quest. And here we go. So we got Castle Quest USA. So I'm going to press A on this. And if I scroll down, I'm then going to find loads of different cheats for this particular game. So I can enable infinite lives. If I press A to go in and press my A button on enabled, we got infinite keys. Again, press A to go in and press A on enabled. And we got lots more different cheats. Some of these can be very bizarre. So we got invincibility here. Just enable this one and press B to come out. I'm then going to go down to apply changes. And if I then go back into the game, quick menu and resume. And as you can see just there, that cheat worked just fine. I was actually bumping into an enemy and I was invisible. So anyways, let's look at some controller settings. If you're having any issues with your controllers in Retrobat, just go to the main menu by pressing start, controller settings, controller mapping, press A and OK. So gamepad detected. All I need to do is hold down a button on my controller. And here we go. So I can start mapping just here. So south, I'm going to press my A button. East, I'm going to press my B button. And so on. Now, right at the bottom just here, we got hotkeys. So like I was explained just a minute ago, hotkey exits us from games. So whichever button you press, just remember which one this is. And if you want to bypass any of these mappings, hold down a button, any button, and that'll just skip that option like I've just done just there. You can then go to OK, and it's just telling me that we haven't assigned a hotkey. So I'm going to go back and set the hotkey for this. So back into controller mapping. And there we go. So the next system I set up was of course PlayStation 2. So again, we're going to just download some artwork for this. So press start, main menu, down to scraper, and scraper settings, everything's fine there, systems included, PlayStation 2 is checked, so just go to scrape now. Okay, so let's boot up this game. What we need to do first is do what it says. So we need to go to main menu, game settings, update game list, yes. It's going to give us a warning sometimes. So I'm going to just press A on this and press yes. And sometimes things can be emulated inside of Retrobat using Retroarch. So for PlayStation 2, we do need to download the PCSX2 emulator. If I press yes. Now I do need to come out of Retrobat because we need to put BIOS files into a different folder for this. So menu, and we're going to go to quit, and here we go. So if I go to the Retrobat shortcut, open file location, so we're going to go into the BIOS folder, and we're going to find PCSX2 here, and we got a BIOS folder inside of here. Now for this particular system, I need to drag and drop my BIOS files inside of this folder. If I then open up Retrobat again, go back into my game,
Imbeciles! Fools! Nincompoops! Can't you idiots do anything right? According to this, your track record for spreading evil is pathetic! Ooka ooka, it's not our fault!
Okay, so everything's working fine. What we can also do is enhance video settings. So within my PlayStation 2 folder, advanced system options, I'm going to go down to decorations, and just here we're actually using side panels here for the game known as decorations. If I turn these off by going to none, that will disable those. Game aspect ratio, I'm going to go to stretch to fit window. Integer scaling, I'm going to turn this on to take away bits of pixelation, which looks pretty dated nowadays. Vertical sync, I'm going to make sure this is on yes, that's going to reduce screen tear. Internal resolution, I can actually upscale this to 4K if I wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it because some games lag. If you can get this up to 1080p, that's a big difference compared to its native 480p, 480i interlace resolution. If I go down to visual rendering, I got different options here, and we can also add texture enhancements, which I've covered on my channel in the past. Anti-aliasing, we're going to turn this on to yes. Bilinear filtering, I'm going to put this one onto yes sharp. And we're generally just going to go through these options to make the game look nicer. Anisotropic filtering, this is going to define textures. Again, we're going to put this one on to around 4 times. Now, emulation folder, skip BIOS, we can actually watch the PlayStation 2 BIOS screen boot up, which can get a little bit annoying, so just make sure this one's either onto auto or yes. If I go down to drivers, if you find you're getting no display whatsoever, go into video and change it over to something else. For me, DirectX 3D11 is working fine. And just remember, in Retrobat, when it says auto, is literally selecting the next option down, which is Direct 3D11 for me. We also got input just here, so if you find your controller isn't working, try swapping over to one of these different options. So let's go back into the game again. As we can see just there, by putting those new video enhancements on, the game looks absolutely amazing. So other things we can do in Retrobat from main menu is just go down to updates and downloads. So updates and downloads, content downloader. If I scroll over to shaders and Mega Bezels and install this, I'm also going to go down to Doomon Bezel project and install this one as well. Okay, so if we go back into the NES folder, and if I press select, go down to advanced system options. Now let me just make you aware, to use what I'm about to show you, you're going to need to go down to drivers, video, and just make sure Vulkan is selected for this. If we come out and go into shader set, we're going to find Cyberlab just here, and also Duomon, which we just downloaded. So for example, I'm going to select Cyberlab Smooth Advance. If I go back into one of my games, and as you can see just there, by applying that, we've now got a CRT look, even reflections. So just remember, advanced system options, shader set, and then you can choose whichever you fancy just here. So next up, let's go for this one, Project Advance. And also just remember, it's unlikely to work unless you go down to drivers, video, and selecting this to Vulkan. So if I open up another game with this new one selected that I've just chosen, let's go back for Double Dragon. Okay, so earlier on in the video I was telling you about retro achievements. So in order to activate this, and providing you signed up, what we're going to do from the main Retrobat wheel, if you just press the start button, the first option you're going to see game settings. Just press A on this one. Next option down, retro achievement settings, press A on this, and then we want to enable retro achievements, so press A to enable. And then simply just go into username, put in your username, and the same with password. We can also put hardcore mode on. We got various different options here we can enable for this. Now if we come back into Retrobat and press select button, you're going to bring up quick access menu. Go down one to views user manual, and this is now going to launch some very basic buttons, that type of thing, as you can see just here. So these are all default buttons if you should get confused of what you're doing, and that can be very useful. Now something else you can do, which I don't think many people are too aware of, is actually use main menu, updates and downloads to download introduction videos. So you've noticed as I've been launching Retrobat, you'll get a video. What we can do just here is go to content downloader. If I use my D-pads just to go across once, we got lots of different introduction videos, including Back to the Future, which is one of my personal favourites. We got some here by Scotty Retro. Install. Now what we can do is actually quit out of Retrobat, and if we go into the Retrobat directory, again right click, open file location. If we go into the emulation station folder, into the .emulationstation folder, and if we then go down to video, we'll find our introduction videos here. Now, if you don't like what Retrobat comes with, simply delete those. And now we're left with the one I've just downloaded. So if I now launch Retrobat again, and there we go. As you can see, we've now got a brand new intro video, which looks a little bit better in some ways. Something else I'm going to tell you, if we go into a game, if I hold down the A button, we can actually define video settings per game. We can even go down to edit this game's metadata. If I press A on this one and press A on name, now let's just say you've got a game or a ROM and it's not scraping its artwork. If you do this by going backwards and respelling names, some games you can get have numbers and letters everywhere, which makes databases very hard to scrape the artwork for. Just rename it, and then all you need to do is go down to save, and then from there you can actually scrape it per game. So again, hold on to the A button, and now we've edited the metadata. Just go to scrape, and here we go. We now got a selection of different artwork for this game, which of course I've already downloaded, so I don't need to do this. If we press A on any game again, we can even, like I was saying, set per game. So advanced game options, and from here I can select different things for Castle Quest as a single game, rather than defining video settings for every game in my NES library. From here, we can even go to add to favorites. So say for example, I want a Castle Quest in my favorites folder. I press A on add to favorites. If I come back out, then I'm going to find favorites. And in my favorites folder, here's Castle Quest. So if you've got many games, it's a lot easier to add things into your favorites list. Now, if I go to main menu by pressing my start button, down to game collection settings, I'm going to go to create new editable collection and give this a name. I'm going to call this just Jamie. And if I OK that, I've now got a collections folder where I can start adding games into that just Jamie folder. For example, if I go back into NES, and what I'm going to do from here is of course hold down my A button, we've now got add to just Jamie. I'm also going to add into that Just Jamie folder, Chip and Dale. Now if we come back out and go into collections, Just Jamie folder, here's both of my games. Now for those of you who's not too familiar with Retrobat, again if we go to updates and downloads, from here, go back to content downloader, your first section you're going to find games. What we're going to do is download something such as BioFury, which is a 3DO game. We can download that and that'll go directly into our 3DO ROMs folder. But the trouble is with this, we don't have any 3DO BIOS. So just remember, for 3DO for example, your BIOS files in most cases will loosely go into the BIOS folder. So let's just download this one and install it. We can also download a Sonic Lost World demo. This one doesn't require any BIOS files install. And we've even got Doom just here, so we're going to download this one and install it. Okay, so once those have been installed, we're going to notice we got some new folders added onto our main wheel in Retrobat. We got Windows for Doom. We've got 3DO. And we got the 3DS game.
Sega.
Okay, we got Doom. And we've also got the 3DO game. But like I say, we don't have BIOS files for this one, so we can't launch it. And generally this is going to happen when a system requires BIOS files, but you don't have any. So For that particular system, if you're interested in 3DO emulation through Retrobat, do check out my playlist for Retrobat guides where I did a 3DO setup guide for that one a little while back. And like I've been saying, I actually have two playlists. I've got one playlist dedicated to setting up particular game systems in Retrobat, and I've just opened up a new playlist with plenty of content in there for general help and general information guidance for Retrobat. So anyways, that's it for today's Retrobat 6.3.0 setup guide, as promised last night in my very quick update. Also remember to check those playlists before asking any questions. It's quite likely I've already covered it in the past. I'll leave the links in my description for both playlists. Anyways, if you liked today's video, hit notifications, subscribe and like so you don't miss upcoming retro emulation content. Also join me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. But until next time, stay retro.